Morning, my friends. Welcome to the August edition of the Bearded Naked Video Diary, where I promised you last month, in July, that I was going to talk about social media. And that seems to be quite a pertinent thing at the minute. Now, I've had a bit of a love-hate relationship with it, kind of since I started the Bearded Naked Yogi. On the one hand, social media has been absolutely fantastic. You know, establishing this teaching practice at the very beginning of the pandemic, offering countless online classes. The only way to really get out there and communicate that to the world was via social media, which was very, very successful. And that's wonderful, and I'll always be thankful and delighted that that kind of possibility existed and also continues to exist. But as the years have gone on, it's a very, very curious thing. I find it quite curious. So, you know, I've got three main social media accounts. I've got an Instagram account, which I'm going to talk about in some detail. I've got a Twitter account, or X if you want to call it that. And I have a Blue Sky account. And the Twitter accounts and the Blue Sky accounts are fairly uncensored platforms in terms of the level of nudity you can show in the photos. There's an awful lot of quite delightfully graphic and arousing content on there as well. These two platforms to me have always seemed to be the last remaining badlands of the internet and of social media. It's all out there. You want to find it, you will find it. And I love that. I absolutely love that. And I will fight to the death for anyone to be able to view the kind of content that they want to see. Obviously, as long as it meets the legal standards of the country in which you live. Instagram, on the other hand, I feel has been a constant battle. And I've been a bit of a social media observer over the last 5 years. Now, Instagram used to be this platform, fantastic photo sharing, you know, gorgeous aesthetics and light and filters and all this kind of just beautiful thing. You know, you could still waste hours scrolling through it, just looking at gorgeous, gorgeous things. And but then when it was taken over, it seems to become a bit of a race to the bottom in terms of the content. And I know that, you know, when TikTok kind of exploded onto the scene, that was like the big rival to Instagram. And you know, TikTok is just pure chaos. I can't get my head around it. It sort of gives me anxiety if I open it. Like there's a lot like flying into your face. Anyway, back to Instagram. So I've had the Bearded Naked Yogi account on there for about 5 years, and posting, you know, very tasteful, very respectful sort of nudes in yoga poses, the sensitive parts, you know, either blurred out or covered with a banner and all that kind of stuff. And I've always tried to, you know, obviously aware that Instagram is not part of the badlands of the internet. But then what I kind of noticed was in this race to the bottom of content, there was a curious thing that happened. The level of risque content on Instagram has gone up and up and up and up and up. And yet so much of my content has been getting flagged and flagged and flagged. You've got to take this down, it breaks the rules, it does this, it does that. You know, every fucking week there's something. And I'm like, really? Really? So there's been that, which has in effect pissed me off a lot. And again, it's just this love-hate relationship with Instagram. And anyway, cut a long story short, I'm sitting there in my meditation the other day, and you know, these a form of words just appeared into my mind. You know, there's there is a fear of holding on, and there is a fear of letting go. And I thought to myself, oh, that's quite interesting, isn't it? And then my mind wanders along as it does. And I sort of had that in the context of this whole thing of social media. You know, I feel like I've worked really hard to build up this account on Instagram and try to play by the rules as much as I can. And you know, well, not as much as I can. I have. That's the thing. And then I sort of looked at it all with a bit of a business head on, which is a little bit more ruthless than my yogi head, I'll give you that. And I thought to myself, you know, I'm privy to an awful lot of data. I can see where people have come to the website. I can see how people book their classes, blah, 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 blah. And Instagram brings nothing to the community. Absolutely nothing. Less than 1% and I thought, well, what's the point in doing this then? What's the point in trying to carefully curate this one account? Because it has this perception still of being this cool place to be, a perception that I'm led to understand is collapsing quite rapidly as the months go by. And in that realization of going, well, you're just playing a game that you don't even want to play in the first place. I just thought, well, fuck it. So I went onto my account yesterday, noticed that another photograph had been flagged up as being inappropriate. So, you know, deleted that. And then I thought, hang on a minute. I just started deleting. And I think I've ended up deleting over like 650 photographs on there. And I've left it with about 30 because I think, yeah, they're all right, aren't they? And I'm just like, oh my God, what an amazing sense of freedom that felt like. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, reaching a point of like, hang on a minute. The facts of the matter are this is nothing. This is absolutely nothing. It does nothing to support me. It does nothing to support my teaching practice. So why the hell am I so consumed with trying to do this? Is it a sense of validation? Well, I've got other platforms if that's what I wanted, where I can post, you know, myself in complete nudity. And I can be a little bit racy or whatever. And it doesn't seem to be a problem because there is already that established freedom over there and support. So it's been really, really weird. And the thing with social media is, it used to be great. I'm old enough to remember when Facebook first started. I'm old enough to remember when Instagram first started. And, you know, social media was just that. It was social media. And it's kind of morphed into something, you know, very, very different to its original purpose. Now, I know all the social media platforms have their controversies and have their issues in terms, you know, from management to algorithms to ownership to this, that, and all the rest of it. But they can still be an extraordinary force for good out there. And I guess it's all just about reevaluating a relationship with something that you've had for so long. And so I guess that's kind of where I am really. As August draws to an end, I say, fuck Instagram, I've had enough. I'm over it. I'm completely over it. And God, it feels good, to be honest. It feels amazing. I mean, my other accounts I'm going to keep posting every single day. You can find me on Twitter at Bearded Naked. You can find me on Blue Sky. I haven't memorized my handle on Blue Sky, but you can find me there. Come and join in the fun. It's interesting as well, that realization in meditation, that fear of holding on and a fear of letting go. You know, my personal studies have taken me onto the next great section of the Yoga Sutras, if you like, the kleshas or the kleshas, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, the 5 great poisons of the mind, the deep, deep subconscious currents of our consciousness that, you know, aversion, ignorance, greed, fear of death, clinging to this life, and attachment. And I think that's where I'm kind of heading into with a lot of this stuff. I've spent the last couple of years studying the vrittis, the fluctuations of the mind, which can be considered to be the surface patterns of things. Perception, misconception. If you've listened to the season 2 of the Bearded Naked podcast, you'll know all about these. Imagination, mental lethargy, all that kind of stuff. Memory, fucking hell, memory. And it kind of feels quite natural at the minute to move on to this sort of the next section. These 5 poisons of the mind. I love the poetic language that comes out of the sutras. So that, have I had an aversion to letting go of something that I perceived was a status symbol? Have I had an attachment to something and a dispassionate analysis of the facts of that attachment show that attachment brings me absolutely nothing? Now, I do enjoy scrolling through Instagram. I love looking at pictures of beautiful guys, funny memes. I adore it. I absolutely adore it. But there is a double standard in all of that. And I haven't squared that circle. And I don't think Instagram has squared that circle either. So I think let's just see what the next few months hold. Twitter's always been so glorious and so free. And Blue Sky appears to be going the same way. I think Instagram is too bothered about its rivalry with TikTok, and it's too concerned with the algorithms or the level of censorship or these models of AI that they use to sort of moderate their online communities are completely and utterly broken. I suppose my one thing in all of this is it's very easy to hand over control of your life and your self-perception to these things. And I've fallen victim to that. No question about it. But somewhere in the middle of all of that, there's a human being. And there's a human being that's sharing themselves with the world. And there's got to be an easier way to interact. This constant censorship, this constant deletion of posts and removal of this and flagging of this. I think there's got to be an easier way. And maybe part of that is on the companies themselves. They hand over a lot of control to software programs that do all of this kind of stuff, which doesn't work, basically. Those kind of programs will always be a race to the bottom, and they will always follow the path of least resistance. We're all human beings, and I think social media has had such an extraordinary, wonderful impact on the world. But I think it's also had a very negative impact on the world. And I remember a time before social media. Maybe I'm looking at it with rose-tinted glasses, but I remember it being quite beautiful, quite lovely. The culture, the cultural shift, the societal shifts that have grown up about it, have come about because of social media, have been extraordinary. No, I don't want to make this entry too long, and here I am rambling again, enjoying my coffee and looking out of my beautiful window at the changing seasons here in the UK. There is also something to bear in mind with all of this, is not to make a big thing out of it. At the end of the day, it's just posting nudes online. At the end of the day, every Wednesday, we all just post pictures of our butts online. And it's a way of sharing with ourselves. Is it exhibitionist? Yeah, it probably is. We all want to be seen in one degree or another. Is it for validation? Probably. It's a very natural thing. But I think if you let it take over, and I think if you realise that you let it take over, and you analyse that and you realise that there's nothing there other than simple smoke and mirrors, then you should probably just take a step back. Delete the content. Fuck it all. Bollocks to it. Enjoy your coffee. Look out the window. Take the dog for a walk. We'll see. Now let's see what September holds, my friends. I feel like it's been a fairly chaotic summer, to be honest. But then, as I've learned over the last 2 years, you really shouldn't trust your own perceptions that much. So here's to a long life on Twitter. Here's to a growing life on Blue Sky. And here's to saying, fuck you to Instagram. I love you. Wherever you are, I wish you peace and good things. Thank you very, very much.